Our total electricity bill for the year has been £196, and included in that is 7,000 miles of driving the car.
Today we're in West Devon on the edge of Dartmoor to see this very impressive self-built passive house. And when we've seen passive houses in the past, we're used to seeing heat pumps, but not here. They have opted for a very different approach, taking advantage of a low voltage in-wall infrared heating system. So we're here to find out a little bit more, and this is Everything Electric Tech. A passive house is a house that's so well insulated and airtight that it barely needs any energy at all for heating and cooling. Think of it like a really good thermos flask. And it's actually pretty simple to do as well. Really excellent insulation, perfect airtight seals, really good triple glazed windows, and a mechanical ventilation system for heat recovery. Now you put all of that together and you get a home that uses about 90% less energy for heating and cooling. And that unlocks the opportunity for some very interesting heating and cooling techniques. So tell me, what motivated you to embark on this project in the first place?
Well, I think necessity. We were renting a house. It was very expensive. We were trying to buy a new house and failing because of COVID. A plot of land just appeared in my inbox for no obvious reason, and we thought, well, we'll go and look at it. And we went and looked at it here, and we thought, I could live here. Can we use it? Can we build a house? And we sort of took it from there, little bit by little bit.
I run a design and build company. This house has got wood fibre external, kind of wood fibre insulation on the outside of the frames, recycled newspaper insulation between the frames. It's really simple and it's a really easy way to get good air tightness and really a good way to eliminate thermal bridges.
So let's talk about some of the technology that's enabled that to be possible. Walk us through some of your setup.
Sort of from the top down, the heating system is a carbon fleece that's plastered into the ceilings throughout the house. It sounds completely bonkers, but I talked to a famous architect called Richard Hawkes. After I'd come across this, I'd done some research up until that point trying to find out what was possible. And he believes that it's not one size fits all. Each project can be done as it needs. And having realized at that point that we were going to build a passive house, we realized that the heat load on the house was probably going to be around 2 kilowatts. And a heat pump, which would be an obvious solution, would be difficult to run efficiently at that level. So we looked at other alternatives and settled on IR and went from panels to behind the plasterboard until we came across this In-Plaster system, which we thought, well, that sounds wacky, let's give that a go. And so that's how we got there. And it's proved to be as impressive as we hoped.
Now this is really exciting, not least because we've never featured it on the show before. This here is a humble towel rail, and the beady-eyed amongst you will notice that there isn't any visible radiator. And that's because the radiator is essentially hidden in the wall, and more specifically, just behind the plaster. Behind the plaster sits this, which is a carbon fleece, which is giving off infrared. So we have infrared heating that I can feel, even if I place my hand just here, there's that lovely, lovely warmth.
The main considerations when you're thinking about installing this system is the specification of it, making sure you're not going to, because it's a direct electric system, making sure you're not going to have too high a energy requirement. You really want to use it in a system, in a house that's got really low energy requirements.
And having been here for a year, are there any niggles that you've come across? I know that there's some intention to upgrade bits of it.
Yes, I wouldn't call them niggles. We've realised that this room is being quite tall, quite big and quite high. We need a little bit more focus of the heating lower down. I think we put enough heating in, but we put it too high up. So we're going to have a more powerful panel lower down. And one of the interesting and bizarre features of well, maybe not bizarre, but interesting features of this technology is that we can put another layer of fleece, because it's only 0.4 millimeters, so it's a thin layer of skim plaster. We can put that on to replace the panel that's already there, and we can upgrade the heat output in the places where we realize that we need more. It turns out, without realizing it, but it turns out that the dining room, the middle section of this room, is the key to heating this room properly.
Because I suppose that's the thing, with infrared heating, it's heating the things and the people rather than the air.
Yeah.
So it does, I suppose, need to be aided in focusing on where you spend time.
Yes.
And sitting at the table,
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah, indeed, exactly. It's like when the sun comes out and it shines through the window, you can feel that instant heat, and because it's so far away, that wasn't working for us. So we thought, okay, well, we'll upgrade that one.
And so it's a case of adding it back in and then reskimming the wall, painting, and you'd never know.
Yeah, yeah, that's the plan.
I also hear from a hot water perspective, you've got a Sunamp system.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that choice.
Well, the Sunamp system, when we realised we weren't going to have a heat pump, which we'd used before to heat the water, we realised it would have to be some kind of direct electric system. And there are many very smart hot water cylinders, but in the process of looking into this, I don't know how we found it, we bumped into the Sunamp system and we thought, that looks really interesting. And everything that we heard about the systems led us to believe that this would suit our usage very well. So I phoned Sunamp in Edinburgh and I gave them a specific question. I said, if I use half a tank of hot water and then don't do anything more to it, how long will we be able to withdraw hot water from the tank? And he said, about a week. And I thought, well, you can't do that with a water-based system. And because it's a PCM, a phase change system, that holds its heat. The two parts of the system are completely separate. So we tested this. We went to Glasgow for 6 days, having had 2 showers out of the tank before we went 6 days in Glasgow with the water switched off, came back 6 days later and could still shower. And that is extraordinary. And if you've seen the system, it's so compact, so easy to install. It's just a pipe in and a pipe out, that it's been brilliant for us.
And also it seems very clear that you've opted for the most elegant, simplistic solutions available. Was that a very deliberate choice?
It was. I've always believed in KISS, if you're familiar with the term.
No.
It stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. And that has stuck with me. If there's a simple solution, that's what you perhaps should go for. And we felt that, although it sounds complicated, the phase change thing is a zero maintenance system as well. And it's compact, easy to install, and so far has worked brilliantly.
Now obviously everything that's out there is sensationally beautiful, but in here, in this little cupboard, that's where the magic happens. So let me take you through a little bit of the things that you can see right here. Now this unit here is essentially like our gas boiler equivalent almost. It's the transformer that's controlling all of the different thermal fleeces in all of the various walls across the property. So we have the inputs coming from the thermostats from each of the rooms, and then the outputs controlling each of those thermal fleeces. Here we have our Thermino Sunamp, which is essentially a heat battery. In there is a salt-based mineral that stores that heat in a really, really effective kind of way. Now for that to work, of course, we need to have our inverter from our solar panels, which is this unit over here. Then we have a complicated but very sophisticated plumbing system right here. And this unit is our ventilation system, which of course is absolutely paramount when you have a house that's really, really airtight. Now Julian is a software engineer by background, so it will come as no surprise to viewers that of course he has connected all of these things together so they can of course all be controlled completely remotely. Now interestingly, you do have solar panels, you also have an electric vehicle, but you don't have a battery. Tell us about that choice.
Well, that was a deliberate choice. We looked into having a battery, and also because we have had a lot of power cuts here. We've had 5 days without power since we moved in. We thought, well, a battery would be useful for when we have a power cut. But the trouble with having a battery for a power cut is you then can't use it when there isn't a power cut, because you've got to keep it as backup all the time. So that seemed not very sensible. So we looked at what options we could get with our electricity supplier and found that overnight electricity is 7 pence a unit. They will pay 15 pence a unit for solar. Now, at first that sounds as though we're just benefiting from reduced tariffs. But actually, there's more to it than that. And the reason that the tariffs are like they are, because it helps to balance the grid, and balancing the grid is always a good thing. So we thought, well, we'll do that, and if it proves not satisfactory, we will put a battery in, or we'll connect the solar direct to the heating, or whatever. But so far, it's worked really well. So we try and run everything we can overnight. So for example, the dishwasher, or some of the heating, the hot water and so on, car charging are all done overnight on the 7 pence tariff.
Now, you've been living here for a year, and we do find that whenever we speak to homeowners who've been on a similar sort of journey, that you do need a year to fully understand the nuances of your house and how it might perform. But do you have a sense of how much or the running costs of this home?
Well, we have a 6 kilowatt array, which should produce roughly 6 kilowatt hours of electricity in a year. And we estimated that we'd have about a 6,000 kilowatt requirement for the year. So that should roughly match. I monitored how much electricity we generated, how much we had used, making certain that I added all of the things together to get a realistic quote. And we matched pretty exactly. So our total electricity bill for the year has been £196. And included in that is 7,000 miles of driving the car.
That is enviable. So all of your hot water, all of your heating, all of your electricity for £196 for the year.
Yes.
That is extraordinary.
Well, obviously the technology, you've got to put the technology in, and there are costs with that. But we have been amazed at how efficient the house is.
One of the things that's very clear to me is that you enjoy a bit of a risk, or at least trying a different solution and taking a bit of a bet, an educated bet, but a bet nonetheless. And that feels like something that people who are embarking on a self-build need in absolute spades. Can you tell me what was enjoyable about this project, what mindset you needed, and perhaps what advice you'd give to other people who might be embarking on this project?
Well, I think a lot of things were enjoyable. Just doing the research, looking at different solutions to things, and reading about people who've done it, such as Richard Hawkes, as I mentioned, and the COP26 building in Glasgow, made me think, well, it's a horrible phrase, but thinking outside the box is what seems to be used. But it made me think, what else can be done? Do we have to go down the standard approach? And just by wandering around the internet, looking at solutions that people have tried, I came across the solutions we have in the house. And also there was a certain amount of, well, that's wacky, let's give it a try.
It has been such a joy to be here today and to see a brand new solution that we've not seen on the channel before. But it's also just been wonderful to spend some time with Julian and to see how much he loves the research, loves trying something new, such that if anyone else is looking to do their own project, they know that it works here and they can be that much more confident to try it for themselves. We've covered loads of different homes on the channel before, so if you are considering your own project, then please do make sure to check those out as well. But that's it. That's all that we have time for. Please do like and subscribe. And if you have been, thank you for watching.
Now visit electricvehicles.expert, where you can follow everything electric and keep current with Clean Technica, The Driven, Electrek, and many more.